Caucus. Um, Let me start again and do 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so very much for attending the special call meeting of the Minority Caucus. Councilmember Stiles had requested this meeting to talk about the John Lewis mural and um, wanted to, have a discussion amongst the Minority Caucus. And I know that this is a historical days and times and celebrations that we have. And I know that I had shared my thoughts in regards to it, but I wanted to make sure that I stayed objective and stayed out of it and wanted to make sure that we were able to look and listen to things in a objective manner. So I decided that it might be good to bring a historian and Dr. LaRotha Williams from Tennessee State University, who's very well knowledgeable about history here in Nashville and nationwide, has joined us on the call today. But with that, I wanted to introduce him and thank you all for participating. And I will yield the floor to Council Member Stiles.
Thank you very much, Chair. Just to continue the conversation that we had begun at our last meeting to discuss the John Lewis mural that would be located on the corner of John Lewis Way and Commerce Street. And initially, this was something that I had brought to the table to the caucus meeting, I think, back in October or September when we were first talking about how we wanted to potentially honor Representative Lewis. And so it had been decided that the first activity that we were going to engage in was the renaming of Fifth Avenue to Representative John Lewis Way. So as that progressed, I started looking into areas that this mural could possibly go and also figure out a committee that could put it together. But this would be much like John Lewis Way, a piece of the Minority Caucus and the agenda that we have in terms of getting things done for the community within the city. And so this mural would be the first major piece of Black art in downtown Nashville. There are 4 artists, Lakeisha Moore, Omari Booker, Dojo, and Herb Williams. And some of you may know Omari Booker and Dojo being a part of Nashville North. And then Herb Williams is actually one of the curators at the Reimer Gallery. And Lakeisha Moore is an instructor at TSU. So it's a wonderful opportunity. And so I'm very much hoping that we could come to a consensus and make this part of our future wins for 2021 in a nutshell. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Did anyone else have anything that they wanted to add? Not being there, no hands
Can't find
raised.
my. I'm sorry, Chair. I couldn't find my hand.
Okay.
Thank you for this is Councilmember Suara. Thank you for the recognition. I just wanted to speak in support. I think that the mural is going to be a permanent fixture for some time in downtown, and I think that since the caucus was instrumental in the street naming, my understanding is that the names of supporters will also be on the mural or in or in a plaque or something like that. But even without that, I think that having the caucus be a part of it will be something that I think I will support. And I think that thanks to our last event, I think we do have some money that we can put towards it. So my recommendation would be not only that we support it in spirit, but also that we're able to contribute, no matter how small. to the mural. So I wanted to add that piece to it. Thank you.
Okay. Um, Councilmember Sepulveda.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, I couldn't find the hand raised thing at the bottom as well, and then I finally found it. Yeah, I wanted to talk in support of the mural. I think it's a great idea. I'm glad that we have local artists participating and Black artists participating, and I think it's good, and it ties into the renaming of the street. And I think that a lot of the community would appreciate seeing something like this. So I'm in full support, and I just wanted to voice that.
Thank you. Councilmember Toombs.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to voice my support as well. I think this is an amazing opportunity to further honor Representative Lewis, and it expands on our work in getting Fifth Avenue changed to Representative John Lewis Way. So I think that this is something that the caucus should definitely be involved in and help it to come to fruition.
Thank you, Councilmember Toombs. Anyone else?
Chair, I'm so sorry. I cannot find the hand on my WebEx either, but I did want to speak to what Councilmember Zwara mentioned. So there are sponsorship levels, and there is going to be a plaque that will be affixed at the bottom of the mural. So any organization or individual that gives 2,500 or more will be on that plaque. And there is a website, and it hasn't gone public, just created it, wanted to wait till we went through this meeting and find out what happened before made it live, but I like to be prepared. So that would be the intention. And I think, to what other council members have said, this is something that would be permanent, something that people that are visiting Nashville have an opportunity to learn about the artists that we have here in town, but also the history that we have that they may not have even realized. I think a lot of people in my conversations with friends at home around the country have said they really didn't know the history of Nashville in the civil rights movement. And I think this is a great opportunity for us to celebrate our history and also engage others within that.
Thank you. Councilmember Gamble.
Thank you, Chair. And I just want to echo kind of what our colleagues have already said. I do support the idea of joining in this effort to honor Representative Lewis in this way. In addition, and it does kind of complement our work that we've already done with the street renaming. I also support the idea of the sponsorship or financial contribution to the effort, and having our caucus listed as a supporter of the actual art piece of it, the commissioning of the art for this project. So just wanted to express support for that as well. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Okay, so I want to add this, and I'm going to let you speak, Dr. Williams, but let me just share comments, because this all preceded, I think, John Lewis, when the mayor's office had asked us what we were going to do about the plaque that had been destroyed in the fire at the courthouse. So this is from Paz Haynes, and he said that this summer, the committee authorized me and my fellow committee member, Ghulam Zad, to explore how the NBA, National Bar Association, could restore the memorial in new creative ways. This past fall, Ghulam and I spoke with Fisk University curator and art director about creating a vision. The NBA was informed that the remnants of the old plaque were recovered and are now housed at Fisk, a decision that the Minority Caucus made. Councilmember Hurd and I discussed some ideas about potential companion projects. A new art piece fashioned from the remnants of the old plaque to be set up or housed at an appropriate location. A new memorial commemorating the 1960 sit-ins and courthouse march. I told Councilmember Hurd about Professor Sheets' idea of a new memorial etched into the courthouse itself. Councilmember Hurd and I agree that all essential parties should meet and discuss this project. That includes the mayor, Napier Luby Bar Association, me representing the Minority Caucus, and so forth and so on. So while I appreciate the spirit of what it is that is being suggested, as I said before, there are so many icons from Nashville that we have to, and while the sit-ins were there, Diane Nash, I think, is probably had more greater input. I know that John Lewis has gone and been an icon that has been revered all over the country, but we have so many like Kwame Leo Lillard and Diane Nash, Kelly Miller Smith, who was the one who introduced John Lewis to Dr. King. We have a street after Dr. King and Rosa Parks, and both of them were gigantic icons in our Black history. And I think that if we are going to have a mural, it should represent all of those that we have. I mean, our local heroes and not just John Lewis. I think that was amazing what we were able to accomplish with John Lewis and renaming Fifth Avenue. And quiet as it's kept, John Lewis never sat at the sit-in counters at Woolworth. People don't know that, but he did not. And the other thing I would like to say is that I have worked with those artists, and it is going to be a tremendous expense for them to be paid the kind of money that is necessary to create something that would be representative of what it is that we want. And I do know that we have fundraising and sponsorship, but I don't want to move too hastily. And when we have opportunities to collaborate with others like the Napier Luby and the National Bar Association and others, I think we would work along with. And those are just my thoughts. And to share those, and I would like us now to hear from Dr. Williams now that we have no other hands. I see Councilmember Gamble. Is your hand left up from previous, or do you have something you want to say now?
It's a new hand, and in response to what you were saying, and I agree. I think what you're suggesting is a great project as well. I think I'm just wondering if we have to be relegated to one or the other, or if there's an opportunity to support this mural project, which from what I understand, and maybe I can be corrected if I'm wrong, but from what I understand, this is a project that is already underway. There's a committee and an advisory board that is already raising money for this project, and we would just be lending our support and financial sponsorship towards it. Whereas the project you're describing seems like we would be more directly involved in the actual development of the mural and including all of those icons that you mentioned, which I think is a great idea too. But I'm just wondering if there's an opportunity for us to participate and support both, and maybe it's different levels of support for both projects. But it seems that it would be prudent and I don't know what the word I want to say. It would be noble for us to participate in both.
Right. Well, the project that I was asking, or what I was speaking of, is not. There was not planned as a mural. We were just talking about a project in itself. When the mural project came up as part of the subject matter, I thought that it would be best to include others on the mural and not just let it be focused on John R. Lewis. So that's my thing, is that I don't want to itemize John R. Lewis out because we've already done something in his honor, and that's why I was thinking that we should do more. But Councilmember Stiles, I see your hand is raised, but I would really like to give Dr. Williams an opportunity to speak at this point.
Can y'all hear me okay? First, I want to thank you for allowing me to attend this meeting and to share my thoughts. I know Dojo and Omari very well, and we are fortunate that we have young men of this talent in our city. And from listening to all of the comments, I think these brothers are talented enough to pull off everything that I'm hearing. They're capable of doing something with John Lewis that emphasizes John Lewis, but also addressing some of Mrs. Hurt's comments. When I look at Nashville and its role in the civil rights movement, we pick up on the icons, right? John Lewis, Diane Nash, Bernard Lafayette, and others. And when I taught civil rights prior to becoming a professor at Tennessee State, I gave a very general story about civil rights, right? I talked about the sit-ins, the freedom rides. I talked about when the movement got a little bit radical after Stokely Carmichael ejected whites out of SNCC. So the story is kind of the same, but it's not. Nashville has a peculiar story, one that makes the struggle for civil rights in the city unique. I heard one council person mention that a lot of people don't know the story of the civil rights movement, but even when we learn it, you really don't know that a lot of the heroes, a lot of the people that were intimately involved in that movement are still walking around today. One of my great joys of being a professor at TSU, even though I'm from Tallahassee, Florida, right? But TSU has shown me a lot of love anyway, is the ability to reach out to the generation that came through TSU during the 1960s and talk to them about what it took for them to get involved, what fueled their activism. And I think oftentimes in our celebration of the icons, our stories, our personal stories get lost in the mix. Whereas we can talk about the leaders, but I humbly submit to you that the bookies on Jefferson Street who had the money to bail students out of jail, they were important. Or maybe even the lady that fried chicken in the church to take to the students to feed them when they were incarcerated or whatever. So I'm saying all that to say this. In celebrating John Lewis, which is a worthy cause to be sure, I see this also as an opportunity to celebrate Nashville And for some of y'all, that means celebrating what your grandmas did or your aunties did or your uncles did. Or if you're a little older, maybe even what your parents did. And I'm aware that there's not a lot of funding to go around to celebrate everybody, right? So while you have this moment, I humbly ask you to consider celebrating yourselves, making this story peculiar to Nashville. What you should see on that mural should be something that you cannot see in Atlanta or Birmingham or Jackson or anywhere else in this country. I feel as though it should be a celebration of John Lewis, but also a celebration of our input into the movement. This is what we did. And while I'm saying that, and I'll drop a bug in Omari and Dojo's ear. Make sure y'all have some Black women on that mural. I challenge my class to find statues of Black women in this city, or just a representation of Black women in this city. We got a nice statue at TSU, but after that, you don't really see that. So this is an opportunity to address that as well. And I'll close because I can get long-winded, but thanks again for listening to me this evening.
Wow.
Thank
Madam
you.
Chair.
Yes, I want to recognize Councilmember Stiles. She's had her hand up for quite some time. Thank you.
Thank you, Chad. I figured out how to find a hand, and then I couldn't get back fast enough when you mentioned it earlier. I think to Councilmember Zwar's point prior to Dr. Williams speaking, that we have an opportunity to do more than one project, and I don't think we should feel like we have to just do one. And I think if we had this particular mural and did other art pieces in the city, that's also a possibility. I don't think it needs to be an either or. And I just wanted to be sure that I've shared that thought. To Dr. Williams' point, there are a lot of people in the history of civil rights and in Nashville in the story. And so one piece doesn't end our storytelling for Nashville and educating others.
Yes,
Thank you,
and
Chair.
also to that point is history is being created every day. You know, we got Mookie, who was MVP of the World Series, and of our history that we list doesn't have to be civil rights. You know, it can be several other things. We can have something about Vivian Thomas. You know, you all saw the movie Something at the Lord. I'm just saying that we have to stay and make sure that we save some for the history that's being created, and no, it doesn't have to be just one project. But as you know, it has taken how many years for us to be able to have the projects that we are considering doing now. Look how long it took us to get a street named after Dr. Martin Luther King. And it took decades. You know, I recall Kwame being outside of the courthouse saying, you know, it's a pity this no Martin Luther, no MLK Boulevard in this city. So I appreciate John Lewis and what he's done and all of that, but I do like what Dr. Williams said in terms of when he talked about recognize our local heroes. I don't know if, I mean, a lot of people didn't even know who Frankie M. Pierce was until the part came up. People don't know who Miss Holloway was with the YWCA. You know, all of those people. We have J.C. Napier. I don't know if you all know that J.C. Napier was a United States treasurer. And we don't have anything positive about him in Nashville. He was a United States treasurer. His name was on our money. But all we know is that it's the projects where a lot of the killing is done. I think it's up to us to change that narrative, to celebrate and speak to all of that. Everybody is talking about John Lewis. I think that's what Dr. Williams, you know, the unique Nashville history, and we can find it. We don't have to let that history, you know, was popular right now. But there's been great history that has been come out, as you all know, last night, celebrating that basketball team, the first all-black team to play an all-white team in a state championship. And these guys are still here. And this was 1966. So I just want us to expand our reach and look beyond that. And there is just so much that we're going to be able to do. We have to know that there is limitations for us as Black people in Nashville. So I understand what you all are saying, but those are just my thoughts. And I don't want to sell it off, you know, so small when it can really be something huge. Councilmember Virtue.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just going to add my few cents. When we are telling stories about history, we want to make sure that we're just not capturing a point in time. And Congressman Lewis, did he play a significant role? Absolutely. But what we have to contend with is for those of us that's here that knows the history of Nashville and the civil rights movement and the actors and the supporters and the allies and so forth. We need to be, we need to keep that on in telling the story as it relates to the civil rights movement here in Nashville. Those that's going to come downtown and frequent downtown, the honky tonks, when they see that mural, they're going to see Congressman Lewis, but he's more the issue of the civil rights movement here in Nashville is much greater than just that one man. So I don't know conceptually what the mural was going to look like, but to Dr. Williams' point, here we are in celebrating Women's History Month, just coming off of Black History Month, and no mention of celebrating any Black women. I would be ecstatic if the project can morph into a mural that tells the story of Nashville versus highlighting just one individual player. When we have many of our activists still living, that we still need to pay great homage to, and in my opinion. And I just want to add to the street naming of Martin Luther King. That was many, many years of conversations. But how that came about really is people were asking, with Nashville being a large metropolitan city, and most metropolitan cities had an MLK street named, but Nashville did not. So I wanted to add that additional background to Madam Chairs also. So I just want, just as a caucus, um, when we do these kind of things, we want to make sure that, you know, our knowledge that we're conveying to the public is that one, will we know the civil rights history ourselves. So that's all I'm gonna add, and just hope uh, Dr. Williams' suggestion. And let me add this for those that don't know him. He is well renowned as a historian, not just here in the city, but other places as well too. And he knows his stuff. And I'm not saying that just because he's my colleague, but he really knows his stuff. And when we are telling the story as it relates to our history, I, I know it can't be a comprehensive mural, but to his point, let's let it tell a story to those that's going to see it downtown. Because for many of them, this will be their one opportunity to really learn about the civil rights movement here in Nashville beyond visiting the Nashville African American Music Museum, the NAM. Got to get the name right, the NAM. So that would just be my input. I think the concept is great, but if we can just expand to that, so we're not having to defend um, while we're not incorporating and being more inclusive as it relates to the civil rights history here in Nashville, being that we are the minority caucus and we should know those things. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember Virtue, Councilmember Suara, and then Councilmember Sepulveda.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to say a couple of things. Thank you, Dr. Williams, for those remarks, and to Chair and Councilmember Virtue. I think that our history is very important, and that legacy is important. I appreciate the idea of making sure that when we're telling the story, we're not just talking about the legend. I think one of the problems that we have as a city is that we have it that we cannot honor people until they're dead. And I think that's one of the things that actually ties our hand, because if we could do things as a city that is not individuals taking it on, we could have been able to recognize all these people by now. I remember even when John Lewis came up, Diane Nash's name was mentioned a lot because of the role that she played. But as a city, we cannot do anything until she's dead. I'm hoping that I've already sent an email to our council attorney to see how we can change that. I think that's something that we need to change as a city. We want to be able to give people their flowers before they're dead. And I think if that is changed, it would allow us to be able to do more of what you talk about. The other thing that I also wanted to talk about is that the John Lewis Way Committee, after the naming of the street, is actually planning a celebration because we couldn't do the unveiling during COVID. And part of this celebration involves Fisk University and American Baptist College. And a big part of it is actually honoring the civil rights icon, not just John Lewis. And so the idea was there was supposed to be a reunion last year. But because of COVID, a lot of them could not have that reunion. So American Baptist as a committee that has Fisk working with it, and I think that they're trying to get the other HBCU involved to be able to make sure that when we're talking about this celebration for John Lewis on the 1st anniversary of his death, that we include all these other icons that we have. And that is already being discussed as something that will happen. Now, this is just a celebration of life. This is a celebration of what they've done, not necessarily a mural or something, but I just wanted to let you know that there's a conversation already that is talking about we cannot leave them out. And that is coming from some of the people that were involved in that movement. So I wanted to share that. The third thing that I also want to mention is that I think we're talking about a lot of history here. This may not be the place for it, but I think maybe the caucus or whoever is going to do it, I think we need to start talking about a permanent place for civil rights history in Nashville. One mural is not going to do it. Two mural is not going to do it. You cannot have a statue for everybody, past or present. And so we need to start thinking a lot bigger in terms of there's a lot that has happened. There's a lot that is still happening that we need to have something. And I think that's the global or bigger look I think that Madam Chair is trying to talk about. And I think it's something we should think about. After having said all of that, I do think that for me, because the mural is already going on, because it's already on its way, and because it doesn't have to be the only thing that we have to do, I still say we can do that and do more. And I think that the onus is on us to continue to do more. And so I wanted to add all of that. And thank you, Dr. Williams, for the presentation. And please do know that, and I don't know if this is right or not, but I'll be talking to Madam Chair. And when we try to get all those icons together for the celebration in July, I'll be reaching out to you as well, either directly or through American Baptist or Fisk University. So thank you. This is great. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Councilmember Sepulveda.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you, Dr. Williams, for coming and speaking to us today and giving us a little bit of history. I was a history poli-sci major when I was in college, and so I really enjoy, learning about all of this. I'm those people that goes to graveyards and looks up the people and what they did. I'm a little weird, but I wanted to say, I appreciate the chair's perspective and everyone's perspective here. I'm just a little bit hesitant because if I'm not mistaken, I think this is a project that Councilwoman Stiles has been working on, and she was gracious enough to loop in the minority caucus. And so I don't want us to derail anything she might have planned. And, funders are already, taking a look at this. And I don't know, there might be history to that. And, specific discussions have already taken place probably. And so I'm afraid that, we might be stepping into something that's been planned and talked about for a while. But I don't know. That's just my perspective. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember Sepulveda. Councilmember Stiles.
Thank you, Chair. So to Council Members Sepulveda's comment, certainly not feeling like anyone is stepping on anyone's toes. I really wanted to have a robust conversation in regards to this. Got this project together in the hopes that this would be something that the Minority Caucus would take on as one of our activities, not necessarily something that's about me. I think this is larger than any of us. I think this is a project that's for the whole city. It's just an opportunity for us to put information and education out to others. And as I said previously, I do not think this is an either or situation. I think this is, we do this mural and then we continue having conversations about how do we want to move forward with other projects in the city and honoring our history, period, civil rights and otherwise. And to the point that there are those that are still living, and being able to honor them while they're still here, we have ample opportunity. Councilmember Hurt, you mentioned earlier that it took a decade to get Martin Luther King Boulevard downtown. But I think in the last 2 years, there have been some great strides made within this caucus in getting things done. I don't think things need to take a decade anymore. I think we have the opportunity to acknowledge opportunities here in town and individuals. And I think this should be just the beginning versus a mentality of, well, let's try and get everything done in one fell swoop because we have to. We don't know if we're going to get this chance again. I think we have created an avenue for us to speak and bring awareness to individuals both in the city and outside of the city. And this is just another one of those opportunities. So I would like, if this is something, Chair, that we need to vote on collectively, I'd love to put a motion out there that we do take this project on as something for the Minority Caucus, for our agenda, and for sponsorship.
So I appreciate the great conversation. And I really do. And I don't want to seem as if I am pushing back on what you all are doing, because I'm not. But what I don't like is for our people and our situations to be exploited. And I believe that tends to happen a lot in Nashville. We're not the ones that's doing things, and we're not the ones. And when people give money and they are the sponsors behind those things, they tend to take ownership of those things. That's why I say it's going to be limited to what it is that we do. Because if we get money from some people for this project, and then we try to go back to those same people for another project, then they've already given their fair share for the cause. So that's why I say, when we've got several activities, several causes going on, then we run a risk of these things. And it's blurred lines that we may not be able to see from this standpoint. And Councilmember Virtue, I really do appreciate you bringing that up. And Councilmember Styles, you are absolutely correct that things have changed in 2 years. But we saw on January 6th, the more that things have changed, the more they stay the same. And people were able to get on top of John Lewis while his death was new. Dr. King, when we came back with him, because he had been deceased, this was 50 years after his death, that we were able to pass that law. And regardless of how long Charlotte Avenue may be, the 1 mile stretch that is now Martin Luther King Boulevard is the most important, because it is where the Capitol sits. The Capitol in which Dr. King was assassinated. That speaks volumes. No one else can make that claim. That's the uniqueness about Nashville. People can have murals. They already have murals of John Lewis all over Georgia, in Alabama, in Selma, in other places. When we talk about spending thousands, tens of thousands, and maybe even hundreds of thousands of dollars for something as magnificent as we vision, we need to make sure that we are creating something that is uniquely ours. That's the only thing I am saying. And I just don't think that John Lewis should be the center of it, because it then speaks to, in my opinion, how others outside of us in the Black community exploit things that happen to us. And Dr. James Lawson is here and has been here for many, many years. And we can do things because the Siegenthaler Bridge was named right before John Siegenthaler passed away. The bridge from Bishop Walker on Jefferson Street. So when I say that people do some of the things that they want to do when they want to do them, there's a way when there is a will. So again, I am just asking that we think beyond this and we not allow emotions and certain moment in time, as Councilmember Virtue said, really direct us and move us in ways when we could have been much greater, and we settle for less. Councilmember Virtue and then Councilmember Styles.
Yeah, I think it's a great dialogue, and ultimately we are all saying the same thing. But again, we have an invited guest, a historian, that's provided um, an expert perspective in my opinion as to, and again, I don't know, and I applaud Councilwoman Styles for taking this on. Doing these type of projects, none of us have unlimited capacity, so it just I can't imagine the time that's going into this. But for something this magnitude, for it to be the first downtown, um, the significance needs to be really, really impactful. And I think that's all I'm trying to convey. I don't know if the committee has lumped in, those members from the National Conference on African American History and Culture here, in the city. I don't know if they reached out to Dr. Williams for his input. I know he did offer that he's going to reach out to the artists, and we all know them. Um, I, I think we're saying, you know, we want to do something, but this is going to be this is going to be so monumental, with it being downtown. And I hate to say this, to put it in this terminology. You just let's just get it. Let's just get the significance of it right. Again, the people that come down there, we don't want to perpetuate a narrative that Congressman Lewis is the history for the civil rights movement here in Nashville, no more than we would say Rosa Parks or Martin Luther King. And I think that's what we're all saying. It's an incredible project, and this is an incredible opportunity. And I'm not suggesting that this be the one all and end all. Just that for this to be downtown, private property, a permanent fixture, uh, let it be of a higher significance and really tell the story of the Nashville civil rights movement. Like if I'm a tourist coming in from out of town, what if I see that mural of just Congressman Lewis? What does that say? Versus if I see a mural with, and I don't know, I'm not artsy fartsy, I'm just a numbers person, but you know, I don't know. I think we're just saying the same thing, and I don't want to belabor the point. I'm okay with whatever the caucus decides, if we're not going to err on the judgment of the historian.
Oh, thank you. Councilmember Styles?
Thank you, Chair. So, um, the wall has been donated. The initial conversations had about what was going on the wall for the building to be donated. I think that kind of moving in a separate direction at this point could throw things off slightly. So I want to progress with things the way that they are. My hope was that we could be on board as a participant in this. If the majority, if we vote and we are all saying that that's not what we want, then so be it. But at this point, I do think we need to decide as a group if we are in support of being a part, being a part of this project and moving forward and continuing to do other projects versus this project being reworked from where it is.
So I hear exactly what you're saying. And I think, though, we have to prioritize projects. And perhaps this project, the cart was put before the horse. Just perhaps. What I can tell you all is that some years ago, I would say probably about 2014, MTSU had a heritage conference, and Jefferson Street was one of its sessions that they had. As a matter of fact, it was the very first one sold completely out. Please excuse me. And when the people got here, they were so disappointed. They said that it was nothing street that was reminiscent of the fabulous history of the nightclubs, of the wonderful institutions, the history about Nashville. And if you all remember with the Green Book, they spoke of how people came to Nashville. Sweats was a part of the Green Book. There were other things that were a part of the Nashville history for Black folks that was not there, and nothing of it. That's what drove the gateway to heritage that we now have. It's so much history. We just don't know it all. And we don't want them. I love the Civil Rights Room and I appreciate them. I love the witness walls and appreciate them, but they are not in our community. It's not for us. So again, I cannot stress this enough, but I can promise you, people that come from outside of Nashville are looking for Nashville history. And to the point of a vote, Councilmember Styles, with all due respect, I could probably tell you how the vote will be. And that's just the way that it is. Because I think that there is more into politics than there is into right.
I'm sorry, Chair, what do you mean by that?
I mean that every person on here who was originally given an opportunity to speak spoke about they were in support of this entire project. And they had, and there were only very little difference in what was said until after. So I don't really want to get into a back and forth, but you know very clearly what it is that I'm saying. And to that point, I'm going to allow Dr. Williams to speak. His hand has been up for a while. So, Dr. Williams, you have the floor.
Okay, just had some random thoughts I'd like to share that maybe will offer some common ground here. John Lewis was in Nashville at a remarkable time in his history. I would make the argument that you have to go back to when Robertson and Donaldson arrived here and said, okay, this is a good place to settle. And I'm saying that I'm not engaging in any hyperbole at all, because you had some remarkable people in this town at the same time. And some of them are famous, some of them we celebrate. But when you think about it, when you start trying to enumerate the number of leaders, you might have 5 or 6. But there were hundreds of people that were being locked up in jail throughout the 60s. People that are largely nameless, but without whom we wouldn't be talking about John Lewis, Diane Nash, or anybody else. I think that if you're going to highlight him on this mural, highlight him for sure, but have the artist figure out some way to demonstrate that he was symbolic of this period, that he was a chapter in this period. Because, right, we know he eventually left Nashville. Diane Nash eventually left Nashville. But you had legions of folks who had to keep on keeping on to make the Nashville movement what it was. John Lewis was a remarkable man in that he came up here from Troy, Alabama, and I remember Gloria McKissick talking about how he was the most countryest guy she'd ever met, which is all right because I'm kind of country too. That's cool. But he became something remarkable. He became a remarkable part of this city's history. And I oftentimes believe that that when we highlight an icon or celebrate an icon or give an icon so much power that you diminish the work of the people that that were very much needed in the narrative. I'm not an artist, and I'm sure Dojo and Omari will figure out a better way of doing this than I could as a historian. But I think it'll be a wasted opportunity if we just focus on John Lewis with this mural. Now, I'm not suggesting that he shouldn't be up there, anything like that. He should be up there. It should be featured prominently. But But by the same token, the same way that he didn't march downtown by himself, the same way, you know, there's a very iconic photograph of him being gassed in the crystals downtown. I'm sure y'all have seen that. He was not in there by himself. He was a leader, but he was a leader who was a guy who worked amongst the people. He was out there in those Nashville streets with the people. So I feel like whatever this committee decides to do or decides to support, it should be representative of that. Because I'm almost certain that if he were still with us today and we were to say, Congressman Lewis, we're going to put up a mural on the street corner. I'm going to put up a mural on this wall that features you. I can almost guarantee you that he would not want to be out there by himself. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. Councilmember Gamble.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Dr. Williams, for all of this great perspective. I do agree that the idea of including more of the Nashville civil rights participants and leaders, particularly women, is a good idea for the mural and just being more inclusive. And it begs the question, is there an opportunity to speak to the artist or the committee that Joy is Councilmember Stiles is working with on that mural project to see if there's interest in the Minority Caucus being an active directly involved, active member and directly involved in the um, design and fundraising for a more inclusive mural. You know, if there is an opportunity, and I don't know if that has been explored, and if someone can.
Councilmember Gamble, to be honest with you, I have been texting with Dojo for about 45 minutes. You know, I really don't want to air out some of the things that he has said to me.
Then instead of having a side text conversation, perhaps the best thing to do would be allow me to answer the question that was just asked.
No, I was
Councilmember
asking,
Gamble.
Councilmember Stiles, please, point of order. I was responding to the fact that I have been discussing with him about coming on the call. And that's what she was asking. And I've been talking with him. So with me speaking with him, he has not, he at one while he said, send me the link and I guess I can hop on. And I did ask Rosie to send him the link, and I'm sure she did send it. Am I correct, Rosie?
Yes, ma'am, I did send the link.
Okay. He hasn't said that he hasn't gotten it, but he did make one statement. Why would I not know about a call about the mural before? And I can tell you that he has shared with me that he is expecting quite a bit of money. And I don't know if he said this to you, Councilmember Stiles, but I can tell you it is very close to the amount of money that you said as the fundraising goal. So you can ask her or you can respond in whatever way you like to Councilmember Gamble. But I was just responding to the fact that I have been trying to communicate with him. I can also text Omari Booker if you all find that fitting.
Well, I wasn't suggesting today. I'm not sure if it would be appropriate or logical for them to come on today, but I wonder if after this call there's an opportunity to have a discussion with all parties involved to see if there would be any interest in collaborating on the kind of mural that we've been discussing today, and they may not be. I don't know, but I'm just wondering if that has been explored. And I guess that if Councilmember Styles wants to answer to that, then that would be good.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Styles?
Thank you. So yes, there's a fundraising goal of $100,000. There's a committee. There are 8 people with an ask of a certain amount for each person to raise within our own networks. Conversations with all 4 artists, the first conversations that were had, and getting the initial funding for the design has been what has been taking place. So it is a large amount of money, but also large interest from corporations in addition to individuals to contribute. So that has not been a concern in getting it done. As far as having a conversation with the artists, one, yes, probably should have asked me to have had that conversation. Given the suggestions on this call, I will bring it to the committee and ask them what they think. Also being aware that this is a donated wall, it is private property. I also have to take that into consideration. So it would be great to give me a moment to get that information and be able to come back and do things in a clear and orderly fashion.
And please, by all means, do that. But I can tell you that Joseph Douglas Love, known as Dojo, is like a son to me. And he talks to me about everything. So in terms of people talking to you and not to me, or me having spoken with him, I'm not sure that that was the place for this. Councilmember
How it was done
Thomas.
wasn't right either.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I still think that it's a good idea for the caucus to be involved with the mural project. I would hate for there to be a mural, whether it's, Representative Lewis himself or, something that's more reflective of the civil rights movement in Nashville. I would hate for something like that to go up and the caucus not be involved. What I would like to see is that there be further discussion to see if we can have a mural, as has been discussed, that is more inclusive of the folks who were on the forefront of the movement here in Nashville, such as Diane Nash and others. I think that because Councilwoman Styles has brought this to the caucus, I think that it's appropriate to let her gather some additional information and bring it back to the caucus. And I only say that just so that there is one line of communication. I know Councilwoman Hurt, you've been around for a long time. You know a lot of people, like you just said, Dojo is like a son to you. Dr. Williams, same thing. You've been around a long time. You know a lot of people. And so because of those close relationships, we can all have, multiple conversations. And then the danger of that is that in those multiple conversations, we're seeing different things. So I think that it's important to have that one central person, which since Councilwoman Styles has brought this to the group, let her be that central person. Let her go back and say, hey, the caucus feels like the mural needs to be more inclusive. What does that look like? Can we do that? And have her bring it back so that we can have further discussion. Because either way, I hope that it can be more inclusive. But even if it's just Representative Lewis, for me, I don't want that to go up downtown and we haven't had anything to do with it. So that would be my suggestion.
And Madam Chair, since I can raise up my hand, I just wanted to say that I do support the idea of an inclusive one. And I do agree that we'll let the committee, I think the committee probably, since they're the one raising the money, will have a larger say than the artist. because once they get the money, they can tell the artists what they need done on the mural. So let the committee come back and review that suggestion, which is a great one. Hopefully make it better, and then we can come back to that. So I do second that thought. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Swore. I guess the thing of it is that the committee's objective is to do a mural for John Lewis. It's just been discussed amongst the minority caucus that it be inclusive of others. So, Councilmember Toombs, would you like to make a motion based on the proposed suggestion?
Sure, Madam Chair. Let me see if I can put it into words. I move that that the caucus participates in the mural project contingent on Councilwoman Styles going back to the mural committee to see if the mural can be more inclusive per our previous conversation. Does that work?
Well,
Yeah.
actually, what you're doing is
Okay.
asking for approval first,
So you just
as
want me to,
opposed to just asking that we defer this conversation until we get more additional information.
I'll move what you just said, Chair, to table the conversation and await more information from Councilwoman Styles.
Is there a second?
I second that.
Second.
Second.
So we're going to move forward with the vote. It's been properly moved and seconded that the discussion is tabled until more information can be provided by Councilmember Styles. Any more discussion? All in favor? We'll take a roll call vote. Councilmember Gamble,
Aye.
Councilmember Sepulveda,
Aye.
Councilmember Suara,
Aye.
Councilmember Styles,
Aye.
Councilmember Toombs,
Aye.
Councilmember Vercher,
Aye.
and Councilmember Hurd. Aye. So it's been unanimously approved. Is Councilmember Lee still on the call?
Yeah, she said yes.
Thank you very much. I did receive a text from Councilmember Porterfield that says that she was in favor of the project that was being presented by Councilmember Styles. So that just kind of led to my comment in terms of there being some preconceived notions with this. So I just ask, thank you all first for the great dialogue and participation. And we look forward to hearing from Councilmember Styles and Dr. Williams. Thank you very, very much for your historical perspective, as well as the immense knowledge that you have shared with us regarding Nashville's history. And I know there's much, much more that you have. So,
Don't adjourn yet, Madam Chair, please.
okay. So, and the thing of it is like you, Dr. Williams, we're not going to take what Dr. Toombs said about us being around a long time. And we know everybody, a whole lot of people, they know us, those that are dead and gone and all of their children and grandchildren. So I got the message loud and clear, but I know we don't think much of it.
I would expect the Delta to take it that way.
I've only been here for 11 years. So
Yes, exactly. less than her and some of the others. So that's the AKA inner that always come off of limited information. Councilmember
Sora.
Councilmember Suarez, yes.
Yeah, thank you all so much. I'm going to make it quick because this has been a long meeting, but it's an information that couldn't wait until our next meeting. It's about a person that is on death row, Purvis Payne, and is scheduled for execution on April 9. The reason why I wanted to bring it as a conversation to the caucus is because the NWACP, the Black Caucus at the State Senate, are in support of asking the governor to stop his execution. It was a crime that happened about 33 years ago. Since then, no DNA was done until very recently. The DA would not allow DNA to be done, but eventually they petitioned the courts and the judge allowed the DNA to be done. What they found out from the DNA was that there was an unidentified person also at the scene of the crime. This was a very violent crime, nothing that should have happened to any family. So this is not taking off for what happened, but the fact that there were other people and the guys maintained his innocence. But the biggest thing that the state is doing is that Mr. Payne is being judged to be intellectually disabled. And according to US law, you're not supposed to execute somebody that is being deemed intellectually disabled. The problem was that this law came about after he was already sentenced to die. And so the Black Caucus filed a bill with the state saying that we need to change that anybody that was previously convicted or sentenced to death, if there's evidence that can show that they're intellectually disabled, that the law should apply to them. But Mr. Payne is at risk of not having the benefit of that because of what's going on. So I'm not saying the caucus should take a position as a whole, even the NWACP and the Black Caucus and a whole lot of other minority organization have done, but I wanted to at least bring it to our attention, and if anybody is interested in adding their voice and their name to be able to say, look, this guy, there's the DNA evidence is not conclusive, there were other at the scene, and the fact that he's intellectually disabled, and there's a bill that says he should not be executed because of that, but the fact that his sentencing happened before the bill should not be the reason why he should, that there should be more time to look into it, and he's always maintained his innocence. So I wanted to bring it to our attention, and I'm sorry that I did not put it on the agenda. A friend just brought it to my attention, and because the execution is April 9, we would not have time to meet again for me to bring it to all of yours attention. I'll be more than happy to share more information later, but I thought I wanted to at least share with the caucus and the caucus members. So thank you.
So I would like for the caucus to vote to support this, and if you want to submit a resolution, we will have a council meeting before before the proposed execution.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
would definitely sign on, or if you want to draft a letter on behalf of the minority caucus for us to state our position, either one I'll be happy to support. I would like to know what the pleasure is of the caucus.
I will do as the caucus wishes. So the resolution is fine. The letter is good. Added our name is great. So whatever the body decides, I'll be more than happy to.
What would you all prefer, a resolution or a letter?
Resolution.
Madam Chair, it's Jennifer Gamble. Councilwoman Sorara, who would the letter go to, and what do you think would make the most impact in getting the attention that is needed to make sure that our position is heard before the execution day?
We can effectively add our name to the list of organizations that are speaking against it, and we can do that through the coalition that is helping him out. I think that's what a letter would do if we so chooses. And I also think a resolution is not a bad idea. We can actually use the resolution to support the bill that is already going on at the state legislature in support of making sure that intellectual disability apply to people that were sentenced before the law was created.
So I move that we add our name as an organization in support of this bill, as well as a resolution be filed.
Yes, ma'am.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Roll call vote on this one as well, just for us to be sure. Councilmember Gamble,
Aye.
Councilmember Sepulveda,
Aye.
Councilmember Styles,
Aye.
Councilmember Suara,
Aye.
Councilmember Vercher,
Aye.
Councilmember Lee.
She sent a text that says she votes aye.
Okay, and Councilmember Hurt, aye. All in favor, 0 against. So that passes. Councilmember Suara, thank you very much for presenting that. And let me just add one thing today, and we will close. I had a meeting with the mayor's office, and Faye Damasio indicated that the council was supportive and endorsed the transportation plan. And I was under the impression that what the council did was signed a point of approval for funds for the activity to move forward in order for them to pursue funds, and not that the transportation plan itself had been approved. So can Councilmember Tools, can you give me clarification?
So the resolution that we passed was an endorsement of the transportation plan. It's not officially an approval because the plan can change, but they needed that endorsement so that they can apply for grant funds.
Well, that's what we said, but when she used it, it was not used in addition to that it was endorsed for them to apply for funds. She just stated that the council endorsed the plan. And I think we have to be very careful of how they conflate the things that we do, the things that they say, in order for it to support what it is that they're doing. And we have to be very careful. And I know I distinctly remember asking us signing this being an endorsement of the plan itself. And it was said, no, this was specifically for them to pursue additional funding, and the transportation plan can change. So I just wanted you all to be aware of that, because as they move closer and forward with their agenda, things that we do every day is being used for their stated purposes. If there are no other questions, comments, again, thank you everyone for your participation on the call, and particularly Dr. Williams, we appreciate you. Have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you, Chair. Good night.
Thank you.